everyone, and welcome to Season 0, Episode 1 of Project Complicated. This is likely your first listen to us, so introductions are needed. My name is Rabbit. My co host Orion joins me as we dive into the boom in South Carolina and the recent meteors in the northeast of the U.S. Before we get started, I believe Orion has an update on the woman that walked into the ocean video we posted on TikTok.
Yep. After looking a little deeper into it, it was not Myrtle Beach. Um, it was actually Hilton Head, South Carolina. We found the original TikToker. It was a lady named Hey Mel.
So I am the one who posted the video.
But we also found out that local police have not had any missing people reports. So maybe it was a practical joke. Um, Maybe it wasn't. But we do know it was not Myrtle Beach. It was Hilton Head Beach. And back to you, Rabbit.
Of law, there was one man's impulse, one man's plot for the climax of the conspiracy. By the military-industrial complex.
Thank you so much for that wonderful update. So, let's dive into what we know about the boom that occurred in South Carolina. So, on May 28th, 2026, at approximately 5:24 p.m., residents across South Carolina's Midlands reported hearing and feeling a powerful boom. Homes shook, windows rattled, and social media quickly filled up with accounts from people trying to figure out what had happened. So, Orion, I'm going to show you some videos that I came across of people's reports of the boom. So, here we go. So there's that video. It was shared by a resident of Pillion, South Carolina. The timestamp on the video does say that it is at 5:22 p.m. EST, approximately. We do have another video example from around the same area of this boom as well. Now, as you can tell on that recording, there was no double boom as kind of shown in that previous clip, and you don't really hear the big rumble like you heard in the other one. Shortly after the boom, reports from citizens flooded into 911.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to start getting multiple 911 calls, but we had some type of, not sure if it was an earthquake or something.
So, really, that's the initial outlook right when it happened. News media did report on the boom. Some citizens, disclosed to the news during interviews that they thought that it was, like a meth lab explosion.
You can tell whether it was a meth lab, just boom, you heard everything rumble, you're like, what's going on? But yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, that was my first thought. When someone was like, did you hear that big boom? I'm like, must have been a meth lab.
Right, and like in the area that it's in, meth labs are pretty prominent in the more rural areas and things like that. So, I mean, it's a good speculation.
I was one of the unlucky few that either I did not hear it or I don't remember hearing it. There was nothing that I would register as a big boom that shocked the hell out of me, but everyone around me says they heard it. I've got a bunch of friends at work that all claim to hear it and everything else. My buddy Skip even called me up asking, hey, did you hear that giant boom? The next thing you know, it's all over my TikTok.
I know, and then like media got all over it, then people on social media. So let's look at what the U.S. Geological Survey and NASA said. With reports pouring in from across the region, many initially wondered if an earthquake had occurred. However, the U.S. Geological Survey stated the event was not caused by seismic activity. Similarly, NASA confirmed that the boom was not the result of an earthquake, nor was it caused by a meteor. Earlier reports instead pointed towards a sonic boom. Let's take a look at this video real quick of the initial media reporting from local news WLTX.
Before 5:30, hundreds of reports of the loud boom were reported from all across the state, from Clemson to Charleston, Florence, Lexington, Columbia, Sumter, everywhere across the state. Tonight, the USGS says the noise they believe was consistent with a sonic boom. However, they have not told us what they believe made that sonic booms.
So, media is saying, hey, we're not sure what caused the sonic boom, even though they did reach out initially. As you can see here, I have a map of the South Carolina sonic boom and the range of kind of where people heard it, but there were reports all the way up from like Spartanburg, Greenville, Charlotte, North Carolina, Charleston. People were hearing it everywhere across the state. Now, the USGS map showing here shows the locations where people felt the sonic boom on that day, primarily concentrated in the Columbia area of South Carolina.
Makes sense.
Now, here's where the story becomes a bit more complicated. We've already ruled out it wasn't an earthquake, it wasn't a meteor. That's what they're saying. So, in addition to that,
we did contact NASA tonight and the American Meteor Society, and they report no findings of meteor activity or any fireballs connected to the incident. We're also contacting nearby military bases. Fort Jackson, unaware of the cause of the sonic boom. South Carolina Air National Guard says it didn't come from them, and we have not yet heard back from Sumter's Shaw Air Force Base.
So without hearing back from Shaw Air Force Base, that makes you wonder, right?
It makes me wonder why did we see like more helicopters in the sky, or did we, or is there evidence? If the military doesn't know where this giant massive sonic boom came from, they need to find out. Was that a super plane? I mean, because it went straight, from what I hear, if we get into it later, I'm not sure, but there were like 4 more sonic booms. One in like Boston, I believe, New York, and another state on the East Coast, all recorded, I think the same day or the next, the same sonic big giant boom over their communities. So if it was a plane, that'd be crazy. But you would think the military would scramble and try to figure out where the hell this boom came from.
Right.
If
And
they didn't do it, who the hell has the power to do it and not have a pillar of smoke of a burning building that exploded? Just a giant sound with no evidence, and they're not interested. That sounds like a national security threat to me.
exactly, like, it raises more red flags than it gives answers, because we're still not sure if it was military activity. Maybe it was a meteor that slipped through, satellite detection, things like that. And we'll get a little bit more into that further on. So, we have our initial reports, but then just days later, on May 31st, the state newspaper put out something on social media saying that this wasn't a sonic boom that was responsible for this disturbance, contradicting earlier local news coverage, right? So the article included a map showing South Carolina's numerous fault lines, but offered no definitive explanation for what residents experienced. So that left many people asking a simple question. If it wasn't an earthquake and it wasn't a sonic boom, then what was
Aliens. I was there, man.
I was there?
I was there. It was aliens. It's always aliens.
Well, since official reports aren't really giving us much to go on, that's when theories start flooding in. People are wanting to know what happened, why it happened, what was the cause of this very loud boom that shook buildings, shook their homes, and startled their day. One of the first theories that started was airquakes. Now, airquakes are also referred to as skyquakes. It's theory, not fact, okay? So airquakes are considered a theory to this day. At first glance, the term sounds scientific, but its history is very old. And Jonathan Todd Hancock's thesis, Shocks to the Natural Order, Euro-American Understandings of the New Madrid Earthquakes, he discussed the historical airquake theory. The idea dates back centuries and proposes that rumbling in the atmosphere, rather than the movement between the earth, could be responsible for tremors and loud reports or loud sounds. The theory itself emerged long before modern geology and seismology. Some early thinkers suggested that air escaping from the earth during seismic events could create a shaking, thunderous sound. But here's the problem. Even that historical theory doesn't adequately explain what happened in South Carolina on May 28th. In some versions of the theory, trapped air escaping from the earth created thunder-like sounds and tremors. Now, reports in 2022 of increased unexplained booms fed into this theory, as there's booms that are heard across the world that do not have an explanation. I know there was some reported in like China and the continent of Asia, all across the United States. In fact, the skyquakes have been given multiple names and reported around the world. In 2020, scientists began using seismic data to try to work out the sound's origin, to see if there were any connections to earthquakes at all. A team of researchers in the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill suggested that the sound was due to the atmosphere, not seismic activity at all. That's crazy. So, if it has to do with the atmosphere and it's not seismic activity, what's causing this, right? Well, researcher Eli Bird said, generally speaking, we believe this is an atmospheric phenomenon. We don't think it's coming from seismic activity. We're assuming it's propagating through the atmosphere rather than the ground. The atmospheric conditions could be such that gets amplified in a particular direction or is primarily affecting its localized area. But even that explanation raises problems. An airquake isn't really an answer. It's more of a description. It's essentially saying something happened in the atmosphere, rather than telling us the actual cause. Which immediately leads to another question. What caused it, right? And that's where things start getting even more complicated. While South Carolina residents were trying to solve their mystery, another boom was making headlines hundreds of miles away. On May 30th, just 2 days after the South Carolina boom, a meteor exploded over the northeastern United States. Residents across Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and surrounding states reported seeing a bright daytime fireball, followed by a powerful sonic boom that rattled homes and shook buildings. NASA later confirmed the object fragmented high in the atmosphere, releasing energy equivalent of hundreds of tons of TNT. With these reports coming out, and still no answers to the South Carolina boom, people began to try to connect the dots in different ways. Let's take a look at the reports regarding the meteors in the Northeast.
A loud boom heard across New England this afternoon is confirmed to have been a meteor exploding off the coast of Massachusetts. Security footage from a home in Rhode Island captured the sound of that sonic boom. Take a listen. Wow, a couple of rumbles there. Scientists say meteors enter Earth's atmosphere all the time, but typically burn up overhead. Sometimes a large object survives and creates powerful shock waves that travel down to the ground.
All right, we have some more reports, some more video here.
I'm Johnny Archer. We are also following this developing story, a meteor mystery. New videos tonight show the moments a double boom shook buildings across New England this afternoon. Take a listen to this. You hear that there? The American Meteor Society says the booms were caused by a meteor about 3 feet wide entering the atmosphere just north of Boston. NASA says it was traveling at speeds over 75,000 miles per hour. The space agency also says the energy released during its breakup is the equivalent to about 300 tons of dynamite.
No impact to Earth.
No impact to Earth. That's important. So with the meteors hitting or coming in the Northeast to just 2 days later, some social media users began comparing notes, sharing locations, and describing what they heard. Others proposed explanations ranging from military activity to atmospheric phenomenon, which we already discussed. The next, solid, reasonable answer would be a meteor, Maybe it burned up, maybe it wasn't detected. Some internet sleuths attempted to connect the South Carolina boom with a series of mysterious booms reported elsewhere in the United States around the same time. These were those meteor-related sonic booms in the Northeast that generated those headlines, leading many to wonder whether the events could somehow be connected. The theory gained traction quickly. If meteors cause sonic booms elsewhere, could a meteor have caused this one in South Carolina? Unlike the South Carolina event, this one had evidence. There were visual sightings, satellite detections, radar observations, and eventually official confirmation that a meteor was responsible. Now, scouring through Reddit posts and comments regarding what people thought, I came across one person who didn't quite capture the boom sound, but was able to capture what they believed to be a streak in the sky associated with the sound itself. Now, disclaimer, I cannot verify the validity of this video. So we are taking this video evidence, quote unquote, as speculative at this point. We can't confirm it.
That's pretty good evidence. I mean, at first it looks like, just a typical, trail, little chemtrail or contrail. But then when he gets past the clouds and you see it continuing on past the horizon, that looks like the same path the SpaceX rockets take to get out of orbit and stuff. So pretty good evidence that it looks like a meteor trail, if you would ask me.
Right. And given the timing and everything, of the meteors in the northeast that burned up in the atmosphere upon entry and caused their booms, there was a lot of cloud coverage that day in South Carolina, which could have obscured any visuals or visual evidence that could have been possible, It does make sense. Now, the timing was hard to ignore as well. A mysterious boom in South Carolina on May 28th, a confirmed meteor explosion over New England on May 30th, and reports of other meteor-related sonic booms appearing around the country throughout the spring. So this isn't just late May that this has been happening. There were things occurring before this regarding sonic booms across the country. Online investigators started asking, could South Carolina have experienced something similar to this? Where was there a meteor that went undetected? Could cloud coverage have been hiding the fireball? Was there a connection between these events? At the moment, nobody knows because there's no confirmation from NASA, the meteorological you know what I mean, or NOAA, U.S. Geological Survey. Nobody's giving us really any answers. Some meteor enthusiasts argue that an atmospheric airburst could explain the pressure wave and widespread reports for the sonic boom in South Carolina. Others point out that the Northeast meteor generated substantial observational evidence that simply doesn't exist for the South Carolina event. We have no confirmed fireball, no satellite confirmation, no official meteor detection, just a boom, and a very loud one at that. Some social media users began speculating that this could be tied to military activity and started looking into that. The military theory did gain some traction for a few reasons. In South Carolina, there are 8 military installments, right? And as we learned earlier, we still don't have any word from Shaw Air Base, which would be the most logical place to get information from, since they could have been capable of creating it during training exercises, etc. But they're not saying anything. With South Carolina being the home to these major military installations, including Fort Jackson, Shaw Air Force Base, and the Marine Corps' Air Station in Beaufort, military aircraft routinely operate throughout the region, and sonic booms caused by a high-speed aircraft have been responsible for mysterious reports in the past. And this is why people are clinging so much to the military activity theory. For many residents, the sound itself seemed to fit that explanation. Witnesses described a sudden explosive report followed by a rattling of windows and shaking structures, effects commonly associated with pressure waves generated by an aircraft exceeding the speed of sound. Online investigators quickly began looking at flight tracking websites, military training schedules, and restricted airspace maps. Some speculated that an aircraft could have generated a sonic boom during a training exercise. Others wondered whether a military operation might not appear on publicly available tracking systems at all. Information only deepened the mystery from there. For some observers, the absence of an explanation became evidence that something was being withheld. For others, it simply highlighted a much less exciting reality that not every loud atmospheric event leaves behind enough evidence to determine its cause. Still, the military theory remains the most discussed possibilities online, largely because it offers a familiar explanation for an unfamiliar experience. A sonic boom from an aircraft is a known phenomenon. The challenge is that so far, no publicly available evidence has connected any specific military activity to the South Carolina boom. And that leaves us in a familiar place, caught between what people suspect, what officials can verify, and what may never be fully explained. It's where the story becomes less about the event itself and more about how people react to uncertainty. When there's a clear explanation, mysteries tend to disappear. But when official answers are incomplete or worse, contradictory, the vacuum gets filled. Speculation moves in, theories multiply, people compare timelines, maps get started, witness accounts are dissected, every unexplained detail becomes a clue, or maybe a red herring. The internet has become very good at investigating mysteries. It's also become very good at creating them as well. So, with that being said, and everything that we've talked about so far, Orion, what do you think?
I love it. Great presentation. Thank you. Beautiful behind the scenes work. I wish you guys could see what I'm seeing. A beautifully laid out slideshow with all the evidence, everything that she's got. Looked amazing. I love you, but I do have to shun you on leaving out probably the most important military base in South Carolina, Paris Island, where all the good Marines come from. None of those Hollywood boys. Just kidding. Love all of the patriots. Thank you for your service. But we are home to Paris Island as well. Just I had to bring that up because mad respect to South Carolina. All of these theories could all make sense. I don't care for the airquakes theory.
Well, that's why I was like, this is not fact. Because
No,
it sounds very scientific, but it's not.
I mean, you could create, obviously, like sonic booms do happen in air. Have you ever heard of whip crack?
Yes.
That sound at the crack, the reason it's so loud is the very tip of that whip is technically breaking the sound barrier.
But we know that it's the whip cracking, and that's the big thing here is like we have this big gaping hole of what caused the sound.
Yeah, if we got all this air, where was the giant whip that would make all of South Carolina hear it?
Right.
I don't know. I have mixed. A lot of them are really good. The meteor theory is still my favorite because it might not have even been technically a meteor. As we know, we have a lot of garbage in orbit.
Mm-hmm.
Just old satellites, stuff like that. Maybe NASA didn't pick up a meteor, but they also hate to admit how cluttered and littered our orbit is and how there are random satellites falling into orbit all the time. It's just most are small. They're made out of lightweight materials and they just burn up in the atmosphere. Well, all these years later, we've been making bigger and bigger and bigger satellites. When they start coming down, that's gonna be a little bit bigger of a firecracker. And there is a website online, I'm sure we can link to it, but it literally tracks all the satellites and all the junk just floating around orbit, and you'd be amazed. It's littered up there. If there are aliens, I guess they got to think that we're some of the grossest people in the world. But meteor theory is probably my favorite. What do you think, military?
I'm honestly leaning more towards Meteor because, I mean, if you think about it, the space trash with the old satellites, that's a good thing to bring up here. But like, if I am recalling correctly, and based on some of the things that I came across on during my research for this, there were mentions of going through the debris tail of AI Atlas. And that's why we're seeing the increased meteor activity here on Earth. And if it was something, maybe it was smaller than the one that came down over New England that caused that boom, and it was small enough to where maybe it caused the sound as it burned up and exploded in the atmosphere, but it wasn't big enough to be like really picked up on, you know, our satellites and things like that. You know,
That makes sense.
it does.
Because
It really does.
because it happened over days. My trash theory doesn't kind of work, I guess, because whatever this event was, it happened over a couple of days. They were like
Right. And
some of them were days apart. That does sound more. Maybe we were just going through a dirty part of the solar system right now.
right, like that's always possible. And you know, thinking about how many different, we're never in the same place twice
Exactly.
in the universe, because while we're rotating around the earth and the earth or the sun, while we're rotating around the sun and the earth is rotating, the universe itself, or our solar system itself, is rotating within the universe. The Milky Way galaxy is rotating. It's like everything is rotating, so we're never really in the same place twice in in space. So there's a high probability that maybe we just went through some sort of like debris tail or a debris cloud, so to speak, in space that explains this increased meteor activity that we're seeing here on Earth, especially since this has occurred over several days rather than it being an all at once or several months apart. Because if we're in that debris, that means we're going to get hit with that debris within the same time frame, right? If it is going to happen. I mean, I'm no scientist or anything, but logic tells you that.
No, it really does. Actually, the more you explain it, the more correct I think you are, because there are we have not only do we have recurring meteor showers. I can't remember the name of them. Like, it's not Pleiadians, but every so often there's this season for these showers of meteors that all just burn up. So we know there's cosmic dust, there's cosmic rocks, there's so many small things. You brought up a good point with, well, what else is strange has been happening in the universe? Well, the solar system. We did have 3i Atlas come through. That'll be an episode all on its own, because I'll still catch the random feed on it on TikTok. For the most part, everybody ate their words. A lot of people ate crow with alien mothership and everything, but having a foreign object pass through, it probably did shuffle some belts. It probably did knock some rocks around. And if it hit in a straight line, those rocks probably shattered in a straight line, and sure, a bunch of it probably ended up in the ocean. But that one graphic you showed me of all the locations that recorded a boom, it was a fairly straight line, as if a row of rock
Right, exactly. And
just fell on the coast.
And that's like why I'm thinking that it's more of the like a debris tail from 3I Atlas, versus just some random debris in the universe.
Yeah, because I mean it's funny timing, you know.
Right. It lines up. It lines up too well almost to ignore it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's the best theory I've heard so far. To an event that I did not experience. That's the crazy part. It's like at the same time, is this like the biggest hoodwink?
Right.
But-
It's like or is it something less complicated but more complicated at the same time, military, because we've got different things going on globally that, you know,
Did Iran try to bomb us?
who knows?
A lot of people thought Iran tried to bomb us, and we were just
Right.
intercepting missiles.
Right.
And we don't want to admit that we let them get past all of our warships.
Right. And
But because if they launched missiles, I honestly don't think they would get past our warships and all the submarines in between here and there, and all the air bases in between here and there. Maybe they did though. I would have a real hard time believing that one. That
but
sounds.
what fuels that fire is that we still haven't heard anything official from Shaw Air Force Base, which would potentially give us an explanation if there was one militaristically, you know?
Well, Shaw being the biggest Air Force base in the state, McIntyre is pretty big too, but Shaw's pretty central location. It's nearby. I think it's right out of Sumter. If they're not answering, it's to keep plausible deniability.
Exactly.
Because maybe they were testing something they weren't supposed to be testing, so they don't want to admit it, but they can't deny it if they got caught. Because very easily they could tell you, yes or no, we had planes in the air. Let me get back to you means let me find out if I can tell you. I need to ask permission to say yes or no.
I don't even think they said, let me get back to you. I just think that they haven't even said anything yet. Again, plausible deniability.
Oh, they're saying something. Surely every news company that we have in the state has called. They're definitely not responding. There are people calling and asking. I guarantee it. They're just random patriots bored at home, probably retired like hell. I want to talk to the commander of the base. That's old people get mad, especially like retired military. Shit, they probably calling the hell out of Shaw. They probably let me talk to Charlie. God damn it, get Charlie's boy on the phone. Like, we'll get back to you. Hang up. If Shaw ain't speaking, if they don't have a confirmed thing from Shaw either knows more than they want to let known, or something weird's going on. Because if they weren't doing anything, and if they didn't know anything, if everybody else is like, it wasn't ours, did anybody hit FedEx? FedEx has their own airport down there. Maybe FedEx has some badass new delivery plane.
I don't
But
know.
the fact that it happened in so many different locations is what's creepy in such a short period of time, relatively. Some might have been days apart, but to get all this is a weird cluster of sounds and reports.
It really is. And I mean, it's so clustered together that it's hard to ignore, which is why, like, if they can confirm that what happened in the Northeast was meteors, then what's to say that that's not what happened here? Especially, even though we can't validate that one video with the streak in the sky, that's pretty solid right there if it is true.
That looked pretty real. That would be a weird thing to AI.
It would be a weird thing to AI.
But, I mean, it looked pretty real. You could tell it had some distance on it because it just disappeared into that background. And I don't know, but I really, honestly, I love our military, but there's nothing at Shaw Air Force Base.
I don't think Shaw Air Force Base is doing anything.
flying clear up to Boston and back down the fucking back home in a supersonic top secret jet, making all these sonic booms pop off over a 3-day period. If you're going that fast, you don't need. It would have all been the same day, just at a few minutes apart. So I don't know. Meteor sounds like, I don't know. We'll have to take a poll from the audience, see what they think. 'Cause, I mean, a lot of the stuff you presented is good. Maybe they know stuff we don't know.
Right, and I mean, with neither one of us really experiencing it or knowing if we experienced it.
We didn't hear it, or if it did, it was nothing impressive.
So, at this point, where does all of this leave us, right? So here is what we do know. A powerful boom was heard and felt across much of South Carolina's Midlands on May 28, 2026. The U.S. Geological Survey ruled out an earthquake. The event was initially categorized as a sonic boom or atmospheric disturbance, but no definitive source has been publicly identified. And while some have suggested meteors, military activity, or other atmospheric phenomenon, none of those explanations have been conclusively proven. What remains is a collection of witness reports, conflicting interpretations, and a mystery that refuses to go away. Because sometimes the most compelling stories aren't the ones with answers. They're the ones that leave us searching. And until more evidence emerges, the South Carolina boom of May 28th remains exactly what it started as: an unexplained event, a statewide conversation, and one very loud mystery. Appreciate everyone joining and listening through. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications, give us a thumbs up, and in the comments, I want you to tell us what you think happened. Was it a meteor, a sonic boom, or something else entirely? Let us know your theories, and we'll see you next time as we continue exploring the complicated, the curious, and the unexplained. Until then, stay curious.